Hello, it's Brad Laurie, or BlockchainBrad, and today I'm honored to speak with two prominent figures in the blockchain space. One represents ThunderCore. He is the CEO, and his name is Chris Wang. Chris, thank you very much for being on the channel today.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
You're very welcome, mate, and I'm looking forward to learning more about the ThunderCore and what your core principles are all about. We also have a gentleman by the name of Zhang. Thank you very much, Ross. You are also a key member of the Huobi group. You are the head of marketing. Thank you very much for also being on the channel to explain all things Huobi.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
You're very welcome. Now, the idea of this is obviously educational. It is entirely free for the crypto community. And I do thank all of you for listening to this as we learn more and we gather more information for the future to make this understanding, make this platform much more robust. So we have a voice in crypto as listeners and speakers. So let's get started, gentlemen. Let's start with you, Chris, because obviously ThunderCore is the name behind you. You represent it. I wanted to ask you a bit about exactly what ThunderCore stands for in a nutshell. If you could just let us know, what is it for those who haven't heard of the term?
Yeah, thank you. This is a very good question. ThunderCore is basically a new public blockchain. It's high performance, it's EVM compatible, and it's very scalable. And we basically, so when I started this project, I noticed that a lot of corporations actually try to mislead the stakeholder and the investors about a lot of structure and so on. And I believe that blockchain is the technology that can bring transparency to the world and to eradicate the trust issue. And that's why I started ThunderCore.
Right. Now, in that respect, can we just clarify in terms of layers? Because we hear that kind of narrative a lot, Chris. Would you regard yourself as a layer 1 solution, layer 2? Yeah, perhaps you could explain the context of what ThunderCore is trying to do as they solve the scalability problem.
Yeah, we are a layer 1 solution, and we are basically a layer 1 public blockchain. And we managed to solve the scalability problem with a layer 1 solution. So people don't actually have to worry about, a lot of times it's complicated to use layer 2 solution, and we eliminate all those complications. And we also support solidity completely, so that if people already develop something on Ethereum, they could literally just migrate over to our system, usually in about 5 minutes or less.
Right. Well, that's good to know, because obviously infrastructural technology is the imperative. If anything's going to scale, you need to have good tech. Now, also to do all of this well, you need to have good exchanges. And that's where you come in, Ross. That's why I wanted to talk to you a bit more about the exchange itself. Now, could you give us a bit of a rundown, firstly, on the two words Huobi Prime, before we go into anything else? What does that mean to you, Ross? And what does it represent for the Huobi ecosystem?
Yeah, sure. So I would love to introduce Huobi Prime to everybody. So Huobi Prime provides the users a better way to access cutting-edge crypto projects with high potential for impact and growth. And that's the one designed not just for the deep-pocketed and well-connected, but also for the ordinary retail traders.
Right. Okay. So obviously you need exchanges for all of these different startups to work. Is that fair to say? Without having the access and the conduit for the people, none of the startups would actually have any success.
Yeah. So basically, all the projects that's listed on Huobi Prime is that, Huobi Prime is, give the users some key advantages, including all the coins purchased through Huobi Prime are deposited to the user accounts, and all the projects were going through all the rigorous screening and selection processes to ensure only the premium products that have yet to be listed on other major exchange are included, and also users can benefit from the lower than market price to get the tokens, and also we have some mechanism for Huobi Prime to mitigate the periods of extreme volatility when the market opens. So that will further reduce the risk of adverse impacts on the users.
Right, and obviously there's been a lot of developments for Huobi Prime, and we're going to explore them with you, Ross. But Chris, if we could go to you for a moment, I wanted to ask you as well with regard to the blockchain ecosystem and the blockchain sphere more generally. Why did you choose to utilize blockchain? What was it about the blockchain market that really motivated you to integrate, to become part of this very convoluted and complex system?
I mean, I passionately believe that blockchain is this great technology. But when I entered the blockchain space at that time, a lot of things, there's a lot of problem with the basic infrastructure. A lot of them is either too expensive or it's too slow. And at that time, I got connected with my co-founder, ElaineShi. She has been doing a lot of research in the blockchain space. She actually wrote the first academic paper on Bitcoin. She also wrote the first academic paper on decentralized smart contract. And she already have this technology to make the blockchain much faster and much cheaper. So I decided to team up with her to build this technology to make it available for everyone in the world to use.
I see. It's actually interesting because I had met I'd met Dawn, one of the people who'd mentored Elaine. And that's also what inspired me to want to talk to you, because academic principles are key. Research is fundamental to any successful technology. So Chris, are you confident that you do have that technological core? Because obviously, you know, it's a bit of a pun in that you have the word core in your own system. But do you feel that that's all been properly assessed, all been properly stress tested, so that you can emerge as a strong layer one tech?
We are very confident about our technology, and our mainnet is already live. Like you could literally go there right now today and just run your test, hammer our system to see that it's indeed safe, secure, and scalable.
Right, okay. Now going back to you, Ross, for a moment. Now obviously there's a very contentious 3 letters at the moment called IEO. Some are arguing that that's moved on from the ICO. And I wanted to ask you specifically, where you sit with regard to this terminology. Are you different to the IEO?
Yeah, so Huobi Prime is very different from IEO, but like most of the people, like, they're confused because, you know, IEO is a trending topic right now.
Right.
You know, everyone is talking about, you know, and also like a lot of exchange are launching their IEOs, but Huobi Prime is not an IEO in several different ways. So the first, you know, it doesn't raise funds for the projects. So for example, you know, we require the projects to be listed that has a firm financial backing. So, you know, so Huobi Prime, you can see it as you know, as a platform with that's a platform that promotes both the projects to the public. So it's not really a fundraising platform. And so that's why, you know, when people talk about the IEO, right, they you know, the IEO is still a fundraising platform. Huobi Prime is not. And second, Huobi Prime allows the users to receive their tokens and start the trading right away. Right. So if you trade on if you participate Huobi Prime, the trading starts at the moment you participate on Huobi Prime, not like IEO, right? There's an IEO phase, and then later on there's a trading phase.
Right.
So
that's really good. I just want to interrupt there for a moment. That's a really big point, Ross, because essentially that interim period is problematic because many people capitalize on that small window to again sell or to prepare for a dump in some respects. So what you're saying is you're focused on that true liquidity, you're focused on that true access for all. But more importantly, you also want to make it clear that you're not about simply allowing companies to do an IEO for a listing, much like we saw in the iterations of the ICO, so they can just capitalize and profit. You're suggesting that you're really about that that project-centric, that tech-centric approach, so that these companies have the opportunity to onboard onto an exchange for the long term. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. So, and also, you know, from Huobi's perspective, we provide the joint marketing efforts and the consulting services, and to help the projects to reach a wider audiences. So, if you look at the previous 2 Prime launches that we have with Top Network and Newton products, so our joint marketing efforts are actually you know, really works. The projects were not charged a listing fee. So that's another major difference too.
That's a big deal because that's how many exchanges really capitalize on the startups, and it also disadvantages many who don't have those kinds of funds. So being feeless. But the thing I did want to ask you is the names you mentioned, Top Network included. Now, many of these present an argument or a presentation of real use case, and particularly real utility. So what's the vetting process for you, Ross, and your team? It must be quite rigorous to make sure that you're selecting the right kinds of projects for your own brand and for your own exchange.
Right, right. So we have because Huobi was established like since 2013, and along the way, so we have established a evaluation model called Smart Chain model, and recently for Huobi Prime we upgraded the Smart Chain model to Smart Chain 2.0. So basically, we look at the following factors. So the first one is, the project needs to have a strong project team. So and also the founders, or like all the co-founders, if they're like a serious entrepreneurs, so that may be a plus. And also the project needs to have a progressive business model with a real potential for long-term value creation instead of a short-term speculation.
Right.
And of course, the project needs to have like impressive financial backing, and also because Huobi values the community support a lot, so the project needs to have an excellent community support, and also the funding team and the project itself cannot have like scandals or like negative news before. Basically, it needs to have a solid reputation, and also because it's a Huobi Prime, and we require the projects not previously listed on major exchange. So those are the core factors that we look at, and also we look at like different. On top of that, we look at other factors too. For example, if the project involves a major technological breakthroughs, or if the founders are supported by the industry experts, or the project has the really good token economics and sensible token economics, and if the project is invested by Huobi Capital or Huobi ecosystem fund, like those factors will be a strong plus when we project.
Ross, it makes a lot of sense. And I wanted to ask you a challenging question. Now, you've already made it clear that you're not that traditional IEO that we've seen in the recent months. But would it be fair to say that you're still presenting some sort of concept that aligns with that? And could people argue that you're really the IEO 2.0, that you're doing something that's similar, but we don't quite know how to define it yet?
Well, I think different people have different opinions on this, but like essentially because we're not raising the funds for the project. So because from my perspective, I think IEO essentially is like exchange endorsed the ICO, right? So it's no big difference than the traditional ICO.
I agree.
Yeah. So but since we're not raising the fund for the project, so essentially it's not fundraising, so it's not IEO. However, so I think what we do is to the Huobi Prime is a new way to market the project to the general public, right? So we want both projects and the users benefit from the Huobi Prime launch. So that's why we have Huobi Prime, and now like we have Huobi Prime Lite as well.
You do, and I want to talk to you about that in a moment. But we'll get across to Chris now because you've been waiting very patiently, Chris.
Chris, let me add a little bit about your previous question to Huobi.
Sure.
So Huobi actually, I can testify that Huobi has a very careful due diligence process. When they first invested us a year ago, we were chosen Huobi Prime.
Right.
And so basically, they ask many detailed questions. They carefully look at every aspect of our project, from the technical aspect, from the detail how our marketing plan, our community management plan, etc. And I can really testify Huobi did a very good job at the due diligence process and to make sure that they pick the right project for the user and for the community.
Chris, thanks for explaining that, because it is really important for us to know the transparent process that either an exchange goes through or VCs. We've heard the likes of Binance as well. And there are allegations in some respects from other projects when they haven't successfully launched on Binance that perhaps there was collusion, or there were allegations that Binance were actually going and using code or using information sought from their deep research of projects. But then there's the counter argument of the imperative of having to do a really deep dive to decide, to actually make that decision for that exchange. And it's sounding like, from what you're saying, Chris, that Huobi do that. They essentially have to go and do that deep analysis, that deep interrogation with you to make sure that they have that quality onboarded onto their own platform. So I wanted to ask you, Chris, as well, why did you decide to use Huobi? Because obviously you could have chosen another exchange as well.
Yeah, so one of the big reasons is that Huobi has invested in us more than a year ago, and they actually really supported us and really helped us all along the way. They have been giving us excellent advice. And so, we really appreciate Huobi for the partnership and for all the help. And that's why we decided to choose Huobi as one of the, the first platform to launch our token.
Right, okay. Now let's get a little bit more into your tech. Now I want to talk to you a little bit about developers with respect to essentially the plan. So how did you attract developers into the ThunderCore network? Because obviously they're the drivers for your future success.
So the first thing is that we actually have we believe that we have a very good technology here. Like we allow people to have a much faster application. They can also have much lower gas fee. So if people are looking for a much more scalable and much cheaper platform, we will be a good fit for the developer.
Okay, so how's it going so far? Are you getting many coming in?
Yeah, so far we actually we just recently launched, and we have getting many game developers to migrate or to develop games on our platform. And all these games are getting thousands of daily active users. They are getting tens of thousands of installs and so on. And they are really growing nicely on our ecosystem.
Right. So the protocol itself is open source, no doubt. How is the activity going on the GitHub? Is that all transparent and available for people globally?
We plan to open source 4 node in middle of May. And everyone could just take a look and everyone could run a 4 nodes.
Right. Have you had any academic or peer reviews done yet that people could access to understand more about the code, to really assess? Because obviously Elaine is an academic herself. So is there more academic research people can do right now to learn more about ThunderCore at that level?
All our protocol is completely published. It's also peer reviewed. And we even have a mathematical proof our protocol is totally secure. Journal article is available online. The other thing is we also have a security audit to actually make sure, our protocol is correctly implemented, it's secure.
So in that respect, Chris, I wanted to ask you a more challenging question. Obviously, developers are coming on board. That's really key. Otherwise, your blockchain will not make it. You're already setting that in motion. Obviously, there's a PR system already well and true in full swing. But what differentiates you, Chris, though, from other blockchains? Because there is a suite right now of layer 1 solutions, all the way from, well, I won't mention them, but many of them are top tech, and many of them are people that Elaine would know. So how do you make yours known? How do you say, we're confident that this layer 1 solution is one cut above the rest?
I think at the end of the day, the important thing is, how are you going to get users to use all the application and use the blockchain? And right now, when the developer get on board onto our blockchain, we try really hard to help developers to acquire users. And so one thing we do is we're going to have this developer jumpstart program, where if a developer could retain user, we will actually pay for the marketing cost to help developers to acquire even more users. Okay. And this has been very successful for the first few applications on our platform. There's this ice scan on our platform that managed to make over 100,000 Thunder token in just 1 week. And we are helping them to integrate into various wallets to just make sure that they can easily acquire a lot of users quickly. Got
it. Now, to do that, Chris, you need money yourselves. Obviously, that harks back to the raise of the Thunder token itself. So have you got a strong runway, Chris? Do you have enough money to be able to afford to support these developers, to support these startups? Because we've seen other projects and other layer 1 startups try to do this, and it's very expensive. So have you got enough money in the Thunder coffers to afford this? Yes, so we're very fortunate to have raised over $50 million and from a lot of very reputable investors. This includes companies like Huobi for one, and I really appreciate Huobi for supporting us. There's also like Pantera, FBG, Zhang, Kinetic, Metastable, etc. So we are very, very well funded to support the developer to develop on our ecosystem. Right, and that's going to be key as you develop for not just years, but decades ahead. Now, Ross, I want to talk to you a bit more, again, about the plans for distribution for this year. How's that going to play out for Huobi? What do you envisage for the future, the short-term future of this year for everything you want to do and build?
So Huobi Prime and Huobi PrimeLite are the most two important strategic initiatives that we have this year. So, and we want to fully, we want to get deeply involved, as much as we can, and provide the projects and the users, they want. And we're looking to do like the full Prime launches. We're aiming for, a regular, like a monthly launch for Huobi Prime, and mostly likely the weekly launch for PrimeLite. But I want to emphasize that, because Prime and PrimeLite are targeted for the Prime or the premium projects. So, because there are not many premium projects on the market.
No.
So if there are not, then we would rather hold until like we found the premium projects that are truly qualified for our for the Prime and PrimeLite listing criteria, instead of like we rush one project to get listed, just to meet the meet the timeline.
So quality over quantity in that sense.
Exactly.
Ross, that's really good to know as well for trust and transparency, because you are focused on making sure that these are literally those premium kinds of projects, as you said. But Ross, I wanted to ask you in that context that how do you ensure that utility model does also reflect the premium project quality? Because obviously we're still in that ecosystem well and truly where the narrative is all about speculative about support for utility or pre-utility. Are you confident that the utility model of these premium technologies is going to work long term?
Yes, so we think so, because if you look at the the blockchain space, it's still at a very early stage. So, and because there are many exciting projects like ThunderCore are emerging. And so that's why we believe, the utilities can be like really used in the public chain space. And, with the infrastructure becomes more and more mature, the utilities will be, widely adopted by the masses. So that's a time, that, people, lots of people or the general public will see the real value of the utilities.
Got it. Now, Chris, I wanted to ask you as the CEO, what are your thoughts on utility? It's so important that we get the views from the teams, because it is one of the most experimental aspects of the whole model itself. Are you getting feedback from enterprise, for example, or from any of the private sector, or anyone at all in all your experience, where the utility is likely to have that uptake, to have that adoption beyond crypto in that community, that we call the crypto community now?
I mean, so I think Huobi Prime and Huobi PrimeLite is actually great concept. And ever since we partner with Huobi, we feel that this is a great way to promote our project. Going to be a very successful program for both Huobi, for any project, also for any project that participate and collaborate with Huobi in the future.
Absolutely. Now, beyond that though, Chris, let's say that there is that great degree of success on those exchanges and with projects that are on board with Huobi. But with regard to your own design and your own metrics, with that token, are you confident that that token can be utilized in the real world, Chris, and have evidence empirically that it can be done? Because right now it's all experimental and we want to see this flourish. But are you confident, Chris, that this utility will really engage the masses, engage the mainstream business sector, for example, and really start to show that the token itself can be a means of real value in the real world?
I believe in the long run, the token will have real value. And right now, there's already more and more usage for these tokens on our public blockchain. And now I understand that right now, there still isn't a lot of users. But I think right now, that's because there are some of the problems that need to be solved, such as, it wasn't scalable enough. It was too difficult to use. But as people make progress on solving the scalability issue and the usability issue, and when it becomes easier and easier for people to use, I think this is still, blockchain is a great technology to show people transparency, etc. And this will eventually get mass adoption, but still in a very early stage right now.
Right.
And
now, Ross, obviously,
that takes time.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that you made that key point, Chris, that last point you made of time. Really, it's the crypto is such a interesting and volatile space where many are quite impatient. But for those who are real proponents of the technology, the imperative is to give it more time, to let this unfold, because people like Elaine need the time to build the quality technology, and also members of the ThunderCore team in other projects. But Ross, I wanted to go back to you for a moment as someone from the exchange. Now, what are the rules for Huobi Prime Lite, for example. Let's go through those a bit. What sets them apart with regard to the stringent regulations, that the approach you've taken?
So actually, that's one of the more important consideration that when we designed the Huobi Prime and the Prime Lite, it's because we think that ICOs are not like fully compliant in most jurisdictions, and so that's why like when we design it, we want Huobi Prime not to use for fundraising because that can cause the problems. So we keep the transparency as one of the top priorities by have all the rigorous and the screening process, and that's why when we designed the Huobi Prime marketing and token launch platform for the premium tokens.
Sure.
So that's the key advantage that Huobi Prime has.
Right, now that makes a lot of sense, but what about the specifics of regions? Let's talk about that for a moment, Ross, because we know that there are different approaches for different parts of the world. Some are proponents of the utility, some are more cautious. The US particularly is taking a very cautious approach. So let's go there. What about the jurisdictional references for Huobi in the US for a start, and then move across the globe? Where are you really focused?
So according to our overall strategies, because US is still like one of the biggest markets, one of the biggest crypto markets, and in the US we partner with a company called HBUS. That's our exclusive strategic partners in the States. And HuobiGlobal restrict the US users from accessing to our Huobi Global website. So, it's basically, there are like two different exchange. One is more like a global exchange, and the other is specifically for the US users through this exclusive strategic partnership.
Right, and that makes sense given that one is called Huobi Global. Now, Chris, I wanted to go back to you for a moment as well, because obviously that you're doing a lot now to develop the branding itself. So can you talk us through a little bit of the PR strategies? How important is it to ensure that people are informed about ThunderCore, or are you still in that phase of just really focusing on building the tech and consulting with people like Ross?
So we have been focused on developing the tech in the past, and that's why we managed to deliver everything on time. We have our testnet live for in the middle of last year, and our mainnet is also delivered totally on time with no delay at all. Okay. And right now, since we already have built our technology, it's very important for us to make sure that people know about our technology and what we have delivered. And that's why we think it's great to partner with Huobi Prime. This partnership, just in the matter of weeks, allow people to quickly learn about our project and to know, what our capability is. And because of this partnership, we have been getting a lot of media interviews, just like this one.
Right.
And I think this is great for us.
Absolutely. And I think also you make the point, and Ross has clarified this, that Huobi do also have that in-house marketing ability to really ensure that there is that quality of information that's released. But Ross, also, there's some other aspects with regard to the topic of stability, for example, and more so scalability, rather. Can you talk us through that feature? Because Elaine's talked about this at length. How is it that we can ensure and trust that your platform is truly scalable for the long term? Because that's probably one of the most fundamental things for everything to flourish, even on Thunder, not just with Huobi, to make sure that it will work.
So to make sure that our platform, our public blockchain is scalable, we are always looking into the newest research, and Elaine is still, it's one of the pioneers in this research field, and she has been making sure that we try to apply the best technology into our consensus protocol. Yeah, and right now you can also just go there and try to see that, hey, our protocol is indeed, it's very fast. It confirms transaction in just 1 second, and it's also very scalable.
Okay. Now, obviously, there's other things as well with regard to compatibility with other chains. I wanted to talk to you about that. Are you trying to have that key interoperability component built into ThunderCore so that you can interact, you can engage, you can collaborate with other platforms such as Ethereum?
Yeah, so one thing we noticed is that there's a lot of people that have already developed on Ethereum. People are very familiar with all the tools, all the wallet, etc. on Ethereum. And we want to make it very easy for the developer to use. That's why we choose to have almost the same API as Ethereum, and almost most of the stuff on Ethereum just work naturally on our platform. Like if you use MetaMask, you could download the MetaMask and could just connect directly to our public blockchain. You could use Remix or a lot of Truffle and other tools, just like people use to develop on Ethereum, and they can just use the same set of tools to develop on our blockchain too. And this has been very popular among developers because they don't have to change their develop environment, their tool, or their habit at all. It just works directly on our blockchain. And once they deploy onto our blockchain, they immediately enjoy a much faster performance, much lower confirmation time, and much cheaper gas fee.
Right, so you're developer friendly and you're also cross-compatible, and those who are already using other blockchains like Ethereum can easily transition and experiment with your own code. So that's going to be really important. Now, Ross, I want to talk to you a little bit more about some of the standard IEO formats, for example. Obviously, with regard to the future of IEOs in the space, what's your thoughts with regard to diversification, evolution, development of this? Because you're leading the way in a new way of thinking whereby it's not about fundraising. So what do you see as a transition now? Because some people are saying that IEOs are close to being dead.
Yeah, some people do see IEOs are being dead because, right now more and more exchanges are doing the IEOs, and not only, the major and top exchange, but, a relatively like a smaller exchange are doing the IEOs now. Mm-hmm. And, we saw a lot of scams along with those IEOs, right? So, IEOs, like in general, like should be, because it's more like an exchange endorsed ICO. But, for the smaller exchange, they may not have like a rigorous selection process, or they may not access to the premium projects.
Right. So they may just be scamming themselves as well, Ross.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's why we, even though we see more and more IEOs like emerging, but, people are saying the IEO, is going to die because, like a smaller exchange are abusing this concept. Mm-hmm. And, the investors got scammed. So, right. And that's actually one thing that we worry about, like in the beginning. And, as one of the top exchange, the Huobi, would like to maintain the transparency and maintain the growth of this business model.
You're basically trying to keep the integrity of this, Ross. Ross, are you the first, to your knowledge, with Huobi Lite? My apologies for interjecting sometimes, but are you trying to lead the way into this new development, this new idea of a non-fundraise support system on exchange? And are there any other prominent top-tier exchanges that you know of that are doing something similar?
Not particularly. Some exchange, for example, like Binance, launched their launchpad. But, like Huobi Prime is kind of like taking a unique path. So right. I haven't seen any, direct competitors, based on the Huobi Prime model.
Got it. So do you think that you can take the market share to really capture the interest of the top tech, the top projects like ThunderCore, who really want to collaborate and reciprocally support this philosophy of integrity, technological integrity, but also business integrity? And long-term intentions, because obviously some of these exchanges don't have those values.
Yeah. So I think the premium projects like the ThunderCore and the top exchange like a Huobi, combined together, can really create the real value for the users and can make the business model more sustainable. Mm-hmm. And actually, that's why like. At the ThunderCore project, right? We look at the funding teams. They have like really strong funding teams, and they have the real, the technologies, with high TPS, and it's transparent and it's fully, EVM compatible. It has all those advantages. And with Huobi, and we have the liquidity advantage, and we have a really strong user base. So that's why combining with all those advantages. So I think those things can make a long-term success.
Right. Now, I want to ask you one more thing more directly about yourselves, Ross, both Huobi and Huobi Global, is that there was a period of time where people weren't quite sure of your own future. I imagine you were the same. What can you tell us about your position in 2019 as Huobi Global, as Huobi, in terms of finances, in terms of your confidence to really lead this out? Are you ready? Do you have the infrastructure for this kind of project support that you want to lead out?
Yes, we are definitely ready for it. So, actually, before the Prime launch and the PrimeLite launch, so both product team, technology team, and also our operations team, marketing team, they're like all the teams are working really hard to ensure, the system reliability and to provide good user experiences and to provide all the marketing support that that the project requires. Right. So our team is definitely ready for it. And also, if you look at the one-stop trading experience for major exchange, and only Huobi can offer it. So Huobi offers the margin trading and the derivative market. Huobi Global is a crypto to crypto trading, and also we have the OTC. So if you look at all these the trading options that we have, so Huobi offers this unique advantage over other exchanges.
Right, and that's also going to add to the revenue of Huobi, and that's very important because you have to be able to make money to really sustain all of the whole ecosystem to support all of these top tier projects coming on. Now, Chris, I want to talk to you a bit more about some programs. Now, you've also been part of developing programs for the community. Can you talk us through what they are? As far as I know, it's called the Community Development Program. What's involved there, Chris? How are you going to engage more in this with these initiatives to connect with the community?
So we actually have many programs in place to help connect with the community. So the first thing is we're going to be running a lot of hackathons. We are participating in a lot of East events. And so for example, we are going to be giving 2 talks at Consensus. We're also going to be in East New York.
Okay.
And the other thing is that we have this ambassador program, and we're actively recruiting other people to just help us spread the word about our technology and about our platform. And since we launched the ambassador program, many people have already applied, and we're in the process of selecting the top talent from around the world to help with communicating our project and to distribute our message around the world.
Fantastic. Now, Chris, obviously I'm an ambassador for some projects. I'm the ambassador for Top Network. Now, what does it mean to be an ambassador for ThunderCore?
As an ambassador, you will educate you, we will help you to distribute, to support our message, to run meetup around the world, and to just, to teach developer and to teach other users to bring them on board onto our public blockchain.
So education seems to be a focus for the future of ThunderCore. And I would imagine also, Ross, this is the philosophy you're taking for Huobi, to educate more, because I've seen the likes of some of the things you've retweeted. For example, there was a lady by the name of Wang, who was on Twitter, and she'd done an IEO explanative piece. It was very short. You retweeted it. So obviously you're supporting the whole educational philosophy. Both of you gentlemen are doing so. Do you think that's the way of the future, is getting rid of the whole pay for peace model we see with influencers, where they just get paid to essentially shill, to more about long-term educational support?
I think the education materials are like complementary to the to the influencers' content. So because they have very different target audiences. For the educational material, it's more for the people who are new to the crypto industry or the crypto investment, right?
Right.
They probably heard the terms IEO, but they don't know exactly what what the IEO is about, and they haven't gone through the ICO and all those all those fundraising phases. So I think those those educational materials are super useful for those users. But for the influencers, for the target audience for those influencers, so they already they already know what IEO is and what ICO is, and
right.
they basically want to know more about the projects and maybe the price predictions or something like that.
Now, I want to ask you as a final question, Ross, with regard to the reasoning behind ThunderCore being chosen as the first project. You could have chosen any project, Ross, to really showcase this new development. Why did you choose ThunderCore to lead this whole longitudinal plan out for Huobi PrimeLite?
There are many projects on the line for the first launch of PrimeLite, and we want the first launch on PrimeLite to be a really successful one. So we chose ThunderCore for the following reasons. So first of all, it's definitely for the funding. It's definitely the background of the funding team. So, for example, like Chris, he was a founder of a social media gaming forum, and which like he sold to Disney, and he is also an early investor in Alibaba, Glassdoor, Flipkart, etc. So he has this entrepreneurship that we were looking for, and also the ThunderCore has a really strong the research team. For example, the chief scientist, ElaineShi, she's a well-known expert on the cryptography and also the consensus mechanism. So when you combine a really good CEO with a strong experience and with a successful like a startup, and combined with a strong the chief scientist and the tech team, so that gives us the confidence to choose the ThunderCore. And when we look at the technology, right? So the ThunderCore has a high TPS, and also it's a sub-second confirmation times, and then it's a fully EVM compatible. So we believe like those this technology has a bright future. So when we look at this project as a whole, that's why Huobi invested in ThunderCore like in the first place, and that's why ThunderCore was chosen as the first launch for the PrimeLite.
Right. So given that you're about to launch very soon, give us a rundown, Ross, on the dates with regard to the plan. And also, I want to ask you very directly, are you concerned at all about the reactions in the market itself because of the propensity for dumping to happen when there's a significant number of unlocked tokens? I just want to be frank and ask you, are you aware of those propensities, and are you doing something at all to ensure through liquidity management that these things are controlled, they're supported?
It's really hard to predict the market, but Huobi and the ThunderCore team are working closely on different the market news, and we are having the plans to monitor
this. Yes, you'd need to, because obviously this is a very new landscape, and we've seen all kinds of actions take place. As you mentioned before, there's the malign actors, and there's also those that are trying to support quality projects. What's going to be interesting to see is how this plays out on the date set forth. So what is the date, Ross, when this is all going to unfold?
Huobi PrimeLite is going to launch on May 9th.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So very soon.
Yeah, very soon.
Okay. Now, just to finish off with you as well, Chris, now you must be looking forward to this final phase of all of the tech work you've been doing to get to this point. What do you anticipate, Chris, from your perspective? What do you expect to happen when this gets launched, given that you've set up your raise, you know all of the financials there, you certainly know all of the different tiers of access, they certainly happen from seed right through. What do you anticipate is going to happen once this hits Huobi PrimeLite?
I think this is just the very beginning. I mean, with Huobi PrimeLite, we'll be able to get token to lots of people and lots of users, because Huobi has a lot of users. It's great to distribute our token to have too many users, because we are a decentralized public blockchain. But I think this is just the beginning. In the future, we're going to have a lot more users, a lot more application, and as we build our community, our ecosystem. This is just the beginning, and I think that there will be a lot of work ahead of us, and we believe that we will always be able to deliver, and we can build up a very successful ecosystem.
Right. Now, Chris, in that respect, I wanted to ask you, if we look at the charts from other projects, even those that have done that on Huobi, we see a slight drop in value after that initial phase of the listing, whether that be an IEO, whether that be this new typology, this new concept and construct that Ross has explained. Do you think that it's going to be somewhat of a long-term plan where you will see these kinds of drops initially and then pick up because of the real value of the utility? Do you think that's going to be a likely scenario, given that the majority of people in crypto today in this era are speculators? They're there for supporting something for value, for price. But if you're about utility, do you think that there's going to be some of this volatility naturally occurring?
I mean, so we don't speculate on the price, but I think in the long term, it's most important to deliver actual value. And if you go to our website, you will see that we have over 2-year plan with specific feature that we want to develop, things like, staking pool, things like a developer incentive program, and develop funding gas, etc. So I think in the long run, the most important thing is to continue to deliver and continue to make technological advancement so that people get the best product possible.
Absolutely. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. You've explained many different facets of both your projects, Huobi, with the leading developments in that exchange domain. Thank you also, Chris, for your role as CEO of ThunderCore. It's a very technologically complex project. It's now becoming one that's moving into the real sphere of not just exchanges, but real business for the future. Is there anything you'd like to say, Chris? We'll start with you to finish off on behalf of ThunderCore to the people.
So we just launched our mobile wallet, and this will be a platform for people to easily play games. And there will also be an airdrop program that's available. Okay. And the other thing is we're also going to be giving couple talk in consensus. And Elaine is going to be giving a technical talk. I'm going to be giving a more business-related talk. We're also going to be in East New York running a hackathon. And this is all coming this month.
Okay, so hackathons, Elaine speaking. I'm going to try and attend to that event actually. You've got a lot of things that are tech-driven. Certainly there's airdrops coming for those, both at consensus and beyond, I would imagine, with different PR initiatives. But thank you very much once again, Chris, for explaining what's more important is the integrity of your team and the quality of your tech. Now, Ross, I want to go to you for a moment. There's a lot happening for you. You're doing things that simply haven't been done yet on exchanges. What would you like to say to the people who are sick of the ICO and the IEO narratives?
I think, in the long term, so we believe that, all these fundraising methods are more efficient than the traditional fundraising methods. And, when from Huobi's perspective, you would like to see more premium projects, like ThunderCore to be listed on Huobi Global and also through our Huobi Prime and the PrimeLite launch platform. So, and that can bring the value to both the users and also the product teams. So we would like to invite more users to participate, and actually we designed the rules of PrimeLite for that. So all the qualified participants will at least get some of the tokens from PrimeLite. So that's one way to benefit our users. So we would like to extend that invite to every one of you from your audience to participate Huobi Prime and also PrimeLite.
Absolutely. Well, gentlemen, thank you very much. I'll make sure that the description has all the different information for both ThunderCore and the new developments for Huobi Prime and Huobi PrimeLite. It's been an interesting discussion to know some transparency, some truth about what you're doing. I wish you all the very best in the future. And Ross, if we could in the future catch up as you start to really showcase what you can do in developing a new narrative for exchange listings, I'd love to catch up. And Chris, hopefully in the future, as you also develop in the real business, the real sphere of tech, and experimenting with what this can do with Elaine and your team, I'd love to catch up again to see how you're performing. And I do wish you all the very best, because it's not easy to start listing and really showcase that correlation between the value of the token and value of the ecosystem. But obviously I want to see real utility emerge, and I wish you all the very best to really showcase what blockchain can truly do in that realm. So gentlemen, thank you for your time. And as I said, I wish you both the very best.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Really pleasure.
You're welcome.
Thank you.